As we await the briefing, let's bring in Marianne Marsh. She was a senior advisor to former Secretary of State John Kerry, and Matt Schlapp is chairman of the American Conservative Union. Let's start, Matt. I just want to say, take a moment to talk about these condolence calls that commanders-in-chief make to families of the fallen. I think one of the reasons I think this is just so unfortunate is that grief is personal and unique, and condolence calls are personal and unique. And I think it would just be better if they could be kept private between the commander-in-chief and the families that are, so upset about what's happened.
I couldn't agree with you more, Dana. In this era of Twitter and the internet and everything else, it seems like there's nothing that can be private and confidential. And I do think there are times when the emotions are so. Can you just even imagine losing your son or daughter or your loved one in the field of battle? And then, maybe a president calls you who you have different political beliefs with, maybe not, but the emotions are raw. And I think sometimes we ought to give the person that suffered the tragedy the grace to be able to say anything they want to say. And presidents sometimes just try to find the words to console them. They don't always do it perfectly, but it's a very human and raw event, and I agree with you. Let's have some respect and some privacy around these conversations.
Marianne, I'll let you give some thoughts on that before we turn to the policy.
Yeah, I mean, this day never had to happen. This never had to become public.
Right.
The fact is, Donald Trump, had he just addressed this the way he should have, which was quickly and privately, we would not be talking about it. Instead, he chose to hold a press conference in the Rose Garden and make a public spectacle about it and then condemn his predecessors. And now he's challenging a congresswoman, a widow, and the mother of a fallen Green Beret, the circumstances of which we still don't know, how and why he died, and why we have soldiers in Niger and lost 4 Green Berets all at once, which basically never happens, and he's challenging them. So it's adding insult to injury. The only thing that's not a surprise here is that he handled it this way, because he has criticized members of the military throughout the campaign, POWs, Gold Star families, go down the list, and it hasn't stopped, and it never will.
Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, I appreciate this, but I guess all I'm saying is that I don't think this helps us in any way as a country as we work together in bipartisan fashion on the questions about our national security and supporting our troops. I think for the Congresswoman to have made politics about this was counterproductive. She kind of started it. Now, you can ask yourself as to whether or not the president. You can ask whether or not the president should defend his actions, and I think he has shown over and over again that he is going to defend what he wanted.
Yeah.
I think all of this is tawdry, and I don't think it rises to the level of this great sacrifice.
The other thing that it does is it takes the focus off of the actual grieving families and back into politics, where I think the three of us all agree that that should not be the case. So hopefully everyone learned a lesson there. Let me just ask you quickly then, Marianne, I'll start with you about tax reform. So it looks like the Republicans say that they have the votes to get a budget passed, which means their trail to tax reform is a little bit easier. Do you buy it?
I don't, and I think Chuck Schumer had it right a little earlier in your program. This will be like health care. The more you learn about tax reform, the less you like it, because you see there's nothing in it for the middle class. Corporations get a great deal, estate tax gets cut, the wealthiest get a big cut, and if you're a middle class person, your taxes aren't going down and your paychecks aren't going up. Instead, you're financing those tax cuts for everybody else, and you're going to end up paying for the trillions of dollars of debt it's going to add. I can't believe there aren't a couple of Republicans, just like health care, who aren't going to come over and support the Democrats opposing it.
And yet, Matt Schlapp, you worked on tax reform at a time when the economy was not good, actually. That was, I think, one of the things I just brought up with Martha McCallum. Is it harder to tell the country that you need massive tax reform if you're actually also taking credit for a pretty good economy right now?
Yeah, basically, Dana, the one thing I disagree with are Republicans who are going around saying we need tax reform. We actually don't need tax reform. They think it's 1986 and we've had 6 years of a vibrant economy, and now we can change the whole tax code. What I want to see are tax cuts. I could care less whether or not they're paid for. And to counter what Marianne is saying, the reason why Donald Trump is president, the number one reason why Donald Trump is president, is because too many working Americans across this country believe that their economic prospects dimmed during the Obama years. If the economy was so strong, and all they can really point to is that unemployment number, but if the economy was so strong, Hillary Clinton would be president. And the fact is, she's not, thank God.
Well, you two are favorite political panelists, so I hope you'll be back. Unfortunately, I'm up against a hard break, and I got to run.